Hey everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer, food maker, or artisan selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast.
I'm Kat Fields-White.
And I'm Bridget Myers. We're longtime farmers market managers, educators, and consultants. Get ready to catch up on all things farmers market pros with us. Welcome to a new season of Tent Talk. We're talking this season about all the ways to tell our stories, whether we're market operators, farmers, or food makers. There's a lot of chatter about farmers markets right now, so let's talk today about one of the best ways to make sure our story is the first one folks read.
Today's episode of Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is supported by Taste the Local Difference, helping farmers, food makers, and market managers with expert strategy, high-converting branded templates, and pre-built automations to create email marketing that nurtures connections and makes sales while you do the work you love the most. For help with content ideas, best practices, affordable templates, or full service management of your email program, click the Taste the Local Difference logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
All right, welcome back to Tent Talk, everyone. We're talking with farmers, food makers, and managers about their farmers market stories this season and sharing how-tos on how to make sure shoppers hear your stories. Today, let's talk about newsletters. They're your superpower and also your nemesis if you're the one that has to meet that deadline each week. Ouch, I feel that. But they're just so effective.
Seriously. I mean, there's just no better way. And what's the old thing about, if you're doing social media, if you're doing Facebook, if you're doing all those things, you're building your house on someone else's land, your newsletter list is the land you own. They can't change the algorithm. They can't dump you for people who are paying to be on social. It goes straight to your folks.
Exactly. And it's people who signed up because they want to hear from you. Like it's an extra step to sign up for a newsletter versus just a click of a follow on social. So you're really reaching, I feel like the newsletter audience is just reaching like a more devoted demographic of people who are like really want to hear from you and they want to read like a little bit longer form and get some more detailed information about your market.
They asked to join our club.
They asked.
Okay, raise your hand if your newsletter last week featured National Farmers Market Week.
Absolutely.
Mine did. It kind of snuck up on everyone this year, but we saw so many markets doing fun things to celebrate, and I'll bet everybody's newsletter mentioned National Farmers Market Week, why farmers markets are important, what it means when you shop with us. So that was an easy thing to kind of hang our hat on in terms of a farmers market hook.
I think so too. And honestly, I mean, I know we joke every year about how we like not prepared for Farmers Market Week. It feels like we love a deadline and farmers market folks are like quick to action. So we just like really got it together. Just not our own markets, but I saw all these markets across the country just really putting out really great content. I subscribe to so many newsletters for other markets just to see what everyone's up to and get great ideas. And a lot of really great material is into that. And I don't know who did it on a tight deadline and who planned ahead. But either way, I'm going to guess it's a little mix of both. Really great stuff out there with the talking about celebrating.
Yeah, I think so too. And thanks, of course, to Farmers Market Coalition for all the templates they provided. And this year, putting a lot of them into an editable form so you could easily take that template that said, why are farmers markets important? And you could lay your logo and your farmers market name in there. And you know what? You can use those all year.
Exactly. I mean, this is not, we've always talked about Farmers Market Week. Like we celebrate year round, even seasonal farmers markets. It's like you could be posting. This is great stuff to post in the off season. Just use those templates and say, reminder, this is why farmers markets are important. And us year round folks just kind of dropping that into our regular rotation of what we're posting and sharing and putting in our newsletters.
For sure. I mean, the thing is, we need a hook every week. We always need something to sort of center our newsletters on because you can't really send out just the same newsletter every week. As I'm saying that, I'm wondering, could we send out just the same newsletter? Do we think people are actually reading it? And do they remember with everything else they've got going on? Maybe we could just send exactly the same newsletter every week.
I think people would notice. Some people would notice. I have some devoted newsletter readers who reply back to the newsletter every week. And usually they're just very complimentary about the puns and the quips and the information, or they come to the information booth. I know we're going to talk about that, kind of the response to your newsletters, but I think some people would notice. So would some people not notice? Sure.
All right. So we'll keep writing clever, catchy newsletter blurbs because newsletters rely on those all important two C's: consistency and content.
We love to just list the first letter of things that we're going to talk about.
We do. If I'd spent more time, probably could have looked at a list of C words and come up with a few more that fit in here, but we're going to go with these two today. Consistency is incredibly important. You know, we keep referring back to the big study that Brett Shaw and his group did at University of Wisconsin. And the fact is, something 87% of people said the reason they don't always go to the farmer's market is that they forget. That's it.
Yep.
They just forget. They forget when it is. And all of a sudden it's Wednesday. And you go, oh my gosh, meant to go to the market on Tuesday. And then it's too late until next week.
Exactly. It's like these reminders are so important, and an email newsletter reminder will get them there. It will, I mean, it reminds me of what day it is a lot of the times because I'll get my newsletters about this or that or other things happening, especially like other events and things like that. But yeah, you really do lose track of it. And I think as market operators and vendors, we don't think about it because, of course, we know what day it is. We know when our market is. We know we're prepping for it. But reminding people that are really busy what day to come join you at the farmer's market is important.
It is. It's just, people got a lot going on nowadays and a lot of information coming at them. So we think the ideal schedule is once a week, right?
Yep.
Or once per market day per week, right? I guess you're doing 2 newsletters, right, at Little Italy because you've got Wednesday and Saturday.
Yeah. So I do a newsletter per market because it's the same location and a lot of the vendors and farmers overlap, but there are differences between the two markets. So we talk about different things. So I send out my Wednesday newsletter on Tuesday and I send out my Saturday newsletter on Friday.
I'll have to check and see what Growing Roots is doing because I know they send out a newsletter regularly that covers all of their markets. They do 3 markets a week, plus whatever special events they have going on because she organizes some craft markets and then they've got a big annual event. And that seems to all be in one newsletter. That's making me curious now. I'll have to look at what day she sends that out. But generally, we've always done the day before the market or the day of, kind of depending on your neighborhood, because folks need time to plan. If you send it out an hour before the market starts, they might like the reminder, but they may already be on their way to somewhere else.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to determine who's reading it and how much planning that particular person needs. You know, so I need like advance notice so I can put on my calendar, but then I also need like a reminder closer. So if you're not sending out multiple newsletters, it's like, what's that sweet spot? What's that sweet day to send it out?
Well, I've noticed that lately you've been sending out the day before and then doing that automatic resend the morning of, right?
We do a resend to anyone who didn't open it, which is like a feature with our provider. So you can send it out the day before, and then I select like 6 a.m. because both my markets are morning markets, 6 a.m. the day of the market to anybody who didn't open the newsletter when they got it the day before. It resends it to them. So it pops up to the top of their email box.
And I think that's such great scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the reasons why you want to use a platform to send your email newsletter out. I mean, I guess if you had a teeny weeny tiny rural market and you only had, a steady 50 or 100 customers, I guess you could just send that out via email.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are pros and cons to using a platform versus just typing up an email and sending it. And so it just depends on what your readership is. We have a huge list because the market's been around for 18 years. It's the biggest market in San Diego County. So it's like our list is very robust for the markets. And so I couldn't possibly do that. I mean, Gmail would like shut me down if I tried to just email everybody directly from my email. But yeah, I think having a platform, it also, gives us those data points and things. So yeah, and I have the option to resend in the morning automatically. So it sends while I'm at the market setting up and I don't have to do anything.
That's just perfect. And so you want to look at various platforms and decide what works best for you. I mean, some of the reasons platforms are important is because there's serious laws about spam email now. Thank goodness, because so many of us get so much email that if there were no laws about spam, we would be in even worse shape, but it is important. So the platforms typically have their system set up where people can unsubscribe promptly, which is legal. If you ask not to get email, you're not supposed to get email. They just keep track of that kind of thing. And then there's a whole bunch of algorithmic stuff about delivery rates that a lot of the platforms are analyzing constantly to make sure that as many of your emails as possible land where they're supposed to and not in somebody's spam box.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously that's always changing. And frustrating both as someone who sends newsletters and somebody who either wants or does not want to receive certain emails in my inbox. So yeah, I mean, it has evolved over the years, but I think the platforms do a good job of like helping get your message to your folks who have signed up for it.
And we use MailChimp both on the Farmers Market Pro side and on the markets that we manage. And we've used it for such a long time that now it just seems like such a chore to move. But every once in a while, I threaten to do that because there's things I love about MailChimp and then there's some things I hate about MailChimp. It does seem to be really popular with farmers market organizations and with a lot of farmers and vendors. I see a lot of emails that come from there. Toadstop Farm uses it. Boise Farmers Market uses it. We always have. It does do the auto resend. It has really easy templates and it's pretty user friendly as far as user interface. How to do things is fairly obvious. I don't love the list management system with MailChimp. It's just blows my mind sometimes. You can't delete somebody because you'll still get charged for them if you do that. But if you archive them, then you don't get charged, but they don't get the email. It's very weird.
Yes, the list management, I honestly haven't even like toyed around with that in years because I got so frustrated just trying to manage the lists and organize them and like clean them out. Because you can look at folks that are on your list who haven't opened an email in years. So, so there's a lot of like maintenance you want to do with your lists. I use MailChimp's very basic features at this point because it works and we have a template and I know how to format this particular template. So yeah, I do love a lot of things about MailChimp because at this point, for me, it's easy. And I have someone on my staff who actually is doing the newsletter for me now. And so it was easy to train her on there and just show her all these like little like like honestly, they're like little cheat codes that I use just to get to where I want to go with MailChimp. But I'm sure I did tell her, I go, if you want to mess around with MailChimp and try to like figure out some different tools that we can use, because I'm sure we're not using every tool available there. I look at click rates, I look at open rates, I look at like who's opening it and how many times they're opening it and what parts of the newsletter people are clicking on when I have links and things like that. So I do look at all that data a lot, but I'm sure there's other things that we could be using, other functions that we could be using. So if you're using a newsletter platform, taking the time to look at those every once in a while, even if it frustrates you, I think is important because you could be missing out on some cool tools.
That's true, for sure. When you talk about people who haven't opened a newsletter in a long time, I just realized last week that I opened a newsletter and actually, I think, signed up for a mini webinar or something from somebody who's been sending me newsletters for probably 4 years. I open 1 out of 10. Mostly I just I delete them as I'm going through tons of email and trying to get rid of stuff. But I've never unsubscribed because it was something that I thought, oh, that's a cool idea. I do not have time to deal with this right now. And I finally opened one. So there's something to be said for just sending it out into the void forever and ever, because sometimes people do swoop around and they notice you. They don't hate you. They just don't have time for you. And they might get back to you. They might move into your neighborhood. They might move back. We have a lot of people who still get our newsletter who were regular shoppers and then moved out of town. They haven't unsubscribed. I hate to kick them off. And sometimes they move back and then they turn up again and say, oh, I've been reading your newsletter for the last 2 years while I was living in Chicago and now I'm back.
That is a really good point, actually, because when I think about cleaning up the list, I think especially if a farmer's market is something that, people move in and out of town or maybe their shopping habits are changing, but they're like, hopefully and probably going to circle back to your market. So you don't want to lose them because they might not remember to sign up for your newsletter again.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So we see a lot of MailChimp newsletters. There's also a fair amount of people still using Constant Contact. It's super old school. I think MailChimp actually was created to be a hipper version of Constant Contact, basically. And then, of course, they've expanded from there. But I do still see a lot of folks using that one. It's very similar to MailChimp. The user interface can feel a little bit out of date, but it does a lot of the same things. Flowdesk is sort of an up-and-comer. I see people leaving MailChimp and going to Flowdesk sometimes. It's got really pretty templates. So the templates that come with Flowdesk are very Pinterest adjacent.
Ooh la la.
So Five Mary's Ranch loves that one. Molly Ballant loves that one. There's always a discount code that you can find from somebody for your first year if you're into any of those groups. A lot of bakeries, I find, use that one. Some non-food vendors. It's very pretty.
Well, that's what's really great, I think, as we're talking about these platforms. Like, are you sending out like academic, like data point information, maybe something like Constant Contact where it's just really simple and like formatted and meant for lots of words is great for your market or your business. Or are, like you said, are you a beautiful bakery? Are you a beautiful like handcrafted vendor at the market? Maybe something a little bit more aesthetically pleasing that's really like connects with your customers is better for you. So that's, I mean, you really want to look around at what templates are being offered from different platforms and find something that really jives with your personal business space.
The fonts that love your food. Flowdesk. That's a new tagline. Go with it. Squarespace, if you use that for your website, there's a newsletter function built in there. Can't remember if you have to pay a little bit more for it, maybe. Growing Roots uses that. The Point Breeze Community Market, they have their website on the Squarespace, and they use the Squarespace platform to send their emails out. And it is kind of a cool, keep it all in one place kind of thing. Squarespace, again, has nice templates. I don't want to say girly, but they're designed to be welcoming and friendly. And so a lot of people use that and find that it's simple and it kind of keeps you all in one spot. And then I think some of the market management platforms, like I'm pretty sure MarketWorks has a function where you can send an email out through MarketWorks. I don't know what their aesthetics are, what their templates look like.
Yeah, and some of my market vendors actually use Square, like their POS system, to send out. I mean, I guess it's not a newsletter, but it gets emailed to me because they have my email when I got a receipt. And so I didn't sign up for a newsletter, but they'll send messages once in a while with like specials or
I think it is
updates.
a newsletter though, because like Not Your Nanas uses that.
Yeah.
And that's definitely formatted as a newsletter. She has photos in it.
That's true. And she writes, I mean, actually love hers because it's like she always has like a cute little story or something like on her mind that she's sharing that's really relevant to her business and her markets. It doesn't look like a regular template. And then she has usually she has like a sales button in there and you can order stuff online through that. So I think it's all through Square.
Interesting. I wonder if Shopify has that as well, possibly. So in terms of farmers and vendors, that might be a good answer. I believe, and I could be wrong about this, and Square's one of our resource partners. We'll check and we'll get back to you.
Bring them.
But I think that with Square, unlike some of the others, when we talk about you own your email list, I don't think you actually have your shoppers' emails with Square. I think you do that template, you write that newsletter, it goes out through Square, and they're accessing the shoppers' emails without you holding them or sorting them.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, just really knowing what we know about, spam can laws and all those things, because I didn't ever say like, oh, you can have my email just because I made a purchase from you. But so they can send you, like when you buy something like at a coffee shop and the receipt just automatically comes to you, you didn't say that you want one. It's because Square is like holding your information based on your credit card or your phone number or whatever. And so I think that's where these lists are coming from, and they can just send out a message to folks who have purchased things from them, which I mean, honestly, is great for vendors.
It's a great way to have a huge list without doing a lot of work to collect names.
Absolutely. And there is an unsubscribe function when I get those messages from the vendors. And so you can, I think, just opt out of getting messages from somebody that you've made a purchase from. But yeah, great, easy kind of way to dip your toes into sending out a newsletter. They don't seem to do it like super on a like regular basis, and some folks just sending out like one or two every couple months, just with an update, either in their schedule, which is really helpful for farmers market vendors. If you join a new market, you want to tell your customers, oh, hey, I'm at this new market now on this day. That's a great way because they've made a purchase from you. So you know that they're probably going to want to purchase more. And maybe you're joining a market that's closer to them or closer to their work or whatever. So great way to kind of shoot some information out there.
Yeah.
Another option.
So, I mean, what goes in these magical newsletters? Content is king.
Yep. Or queen, actually, for us.
That's right.
Yeah.
We are the queens of newsletters.
That's right.
I mean, I have been writing that newsletter. I've been writing weekly newsletters, I just realized, for over 18 years for farmers markets. And I think I wrote them before that. And honestly, back in the day, I was writing them and printing them out and mailing them, I believe, or passing them out at the welcome booth or something because email wasn't a thing. I'm that old.
Well, we had the Mercado Monitor, which was a paper newsletter that we handed to our shoppers way back in the day at the Mercado. So honestly, I mean, side note, it keeps our writing skills sharp. Not like you need help with that because you're always writing. But as someone who finds herself not really like writing stories very often, sometimes for long periods of time, when I jump in and write the newsletter, it's like, oh, this is actually a great practice. I like it.
That's right. Keep those writing skills. We're going to entirely skip the topic of AI in this particular episode, by the way, because it's a deep topic. I don't like it. And we're not going to talk about letting somebody else write your newsletter. We're just going to skip it.
We're going to go back to like handwritten, printed newsletters in deep defiance of AI. Okay, so get ready for that.
Calligraphy.
Yes, we're going to use
Scrolls.
we're using our feather pen. Okay. And we're going to seal it with a wax seal. And this is how far back we're going. Yes, let's not talk about AI because
We're just going to skip it. We'll
makes me
do that in an AI episode. It
Yeah.
makes me twitch too much. We're just going to keep going here.
Yep.
So I think generally speaking for a newsletter, 1 or 2 blurbs is fine. 1 or 2 paragraphs, 1 or 2 photos, and then maybe some extra added information. But I will say some markets do super long emails, and I read some of those. So you can't just assume that with shorter attention spans and busy people, you should just write a little bit. I do it out of self-defense because I'm writing so many newsletters every week. But a nice long newsletter can be good if it's well formatted and it's interesting.
I think so too. And I think you and I kind of align on this. Like we're really busy. So sometimes we just have time to read a little bit of a newsletter, but I like sitting down and reading a nice long newsletter. And sometimes there's information that is maybe like even they put it in there every single week, like at the bottom, and you can click, or they have what's in season lists, or they have recipe links or highlights and things like that. And if I have time, I really enjoy reading that stuff. So I think what our point is really, if you're as a newsletter reader and writer, is just put all like the really kind of urgent, ish important stuff at the top. And then if you're into writing a long newsletter, like include all that information. And if people have time to scroll down and read the whole thing, they'll scroll down and read the whole thing.
Yeah. Boise does a great job with that. Their newsletter is really long, but they have just kind of little pop-up information things about the sandwich of the week at some vendor or somebody that's having a special or something new that's in season, maybe with a recipe link. And then they'll take like a specific vendor or farmer and do an actual profile, and they show pictures of that person and maybe their farm or their bakery, and they get quotes from them. I mean, it's really nicely detailed profiles. You do, in that case, just have to be careful to spread the love because I don't know about you, but every once in a while I get an email from a vendor who says, it seems like you talk about so-and-so a lot and you've never profiled me. So, I mean, there's a little bit of that you got to watch out for. So you got to make sure you spread your attention.
We do, I will say, have a spreadsheet. We use it as much as we possibly can. It's very hard to keep up on, but where the social media and the newsletter and all of our marketing efforts, we just have all the vendors listed and we kind of like check off when we've talked about them in some capacity too, because it is our job as market operators to talk about all of our vendors at the market. It really is. So we get in the habit, I think, especially when we're really busy, of talking about the same farmers, maybe farmers that grow a lot of different items. And so they're really easy to talk about, or maybe they have a great newsletter or they have great social media. So we're kind of gleaning off of all their information and it makes it so simple. We don't have to dig around for information. So yes, of course, we talk about them a lot more. Or in my case, if the vendors are at the Saturday and the Wednesday market, we're just seeing them twice a week versus once a week. And so maybe they get, talked about a little bit more. But we try to be really conscious of that. And I think we do really well at our efforts about really talking about all of our folks that are at the market.
Yeah, I think so too.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I will just explain to a vendor, you know what? Some vendors do a lot of posts on social media. They send out their own newsletter. They maybe drop me an email if they're introducing a new product. That makes it easier for me. Sometimes I'm really busy and that's what I rely on. So I understand that you feel like you're not getting as much attention. Maybe think about doing some of those things because top of mind,
Yeah, exactly. And I think, this could be this is kind of a different marketing conversation, but talking with your farmers and vendors, especially if you're running a market that is kind of like a mixed bag, you have farmers and vendors, food vendors, non-food vendors, hot food vendors. Our whole jive at the Little Italy market is we're very farm and food focused and
Same.
forward. And I know that is with your market. And especially markets that don't have anything else happening at their market. But I have some non-food vendors at my market, and I don't want them to feel like I don't want to talk about them. But I have had that conversation where in newsletters or social media, if I'm posting, like, I host these vendors and I love them, but if I'm posting jewelry or like candles, just the algorithm is not picking that up. It's not pushing it forward. The newsletters don't get clicked and opened as much. And so people want to see farm fresh produce when they're like subscribing to a newsletter about a farmer's market or they're following a farmer's market. And so I think another part of our job is making sure that we're pushing all the like great stuff that's going to get a lot of traction to the forefront. And then also talking about, pick up, fresh watermelon and grab a book from the book vendor and light that candle and have like a relaxing lunch or something like that. So we kind of tie those things in there. But I just explain them like this will get more foot traffic. What we're trying to get is like feet on the ground at the market with wallets open, buying stuff. And so, yes, your candle is absolutely gorgeous and, I love it and it's beautiful and, you're a great vendor, but that's not getting feet on the ground. So we're pushing that other stuff forward into the top. So I just think a little explanation goes a long way if your vendors and farmers are asking why other stuff is getting posted. And also, I don't mind when they're bringing that up because it's like, oh, you know what? I should be posting about that. Like, thanks for the reminder. We're really busy. I have 300 vendors on my roster. Like, that's a lot to talk about 300 different people every single week. So a little push is great. But yeah, I mean, I have farmers that are texting me pictures from the fields saying, hey, we're going to have a bunch of these this weekend. Or, oh, Bridget, this came into season earlier, so I'm going to have it tomorrow at the Wednesday market. I thought it wouldn't be ready till Saturday, but I'm going to bring this, product to the market. Just a heads up. And so I can push that out in the newsletter. I can get that to social. So having that kind of relationship with your farmers and vendors is really important when it comes to marketing like this.
Yeah. And it's a good thing to just remind them shoppers follow the farmers, vendors follow the shoppers.
Exactly. And that's why everything works. So yeah, just a little explanation is good. But I can understand, how they're feeling about that.
If you don't have a gigantic market, and actually I've seen this even with some markets that are medium to large size, some newsletters list all the vendors that are going to be attending that week.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. We don't typically do that. We've got it on our website if people want to look at it. But some people do that in their newsletter every single week. We used to do it during COVID, just because it was a different kind of environment. But I will say that if you're going to do that, I've seen every once in a while people make a big deal in their newsletters of who's out this week. I think that's a silly idea. In my opinion, you talk about the vendors that are in, not the vendors that are out.
Yeah, I think it's just like simple marketing, like a marketing skill is just don't like saying someone's out is a negative. So we're not putting that message forward. You can, if your hummus vendor is out, maybe you push forward a different kind of dip vendor that you have there.
Exactly.
And then just say that. You don't have to say the other thing. So,
right. Mm-hmm. Agreed. Mm-hmm. Any special activations you're doing, mm-hmm. if, your library is going to be on site this week and you're going to have story time for kids, or you're going to have a craft, or there's a chorus group or a dance troupe or somebody that's coming through. Those are fun things to put in the newsletter. One more reason for people to come out. I think for farmers and vendors, one of the coolest things to put in the newsletter is a behind the scenes. And actually, I've seen a few farmers markets do that lately where they're highlighting their staff and they're doing a good job of that. But especially if you're a farmer or if you're making something that you're bringing to market, what's on special this week, maybe a photo of you actually stirring your sauce or pouring it into the jars, what's in the CSA box. Toadstop Farm does a great job. They run pictures and say, there are too many weeds in this bed, but I've been busy loading your CSA boxes and I haven't had time to pull them. Here they are. Feel free to come help. So they do a really fun newsletter that talks a lot about what's happening before they get to the market. And I think that intrigues people.
I think so too. People love a story. Like this is the whole point of farmers markets is connection. So you can find that through your newsletter.
Yeah. Pictures of your new baby, what your family's up to.
Oh, just love this. Our new little dumpling, all those things.
Connection points. It's all about that.
Exactly.
And then general themes that are easy to play off of our holidays. It's always a good time to run holiday recipes for various things that people are celebrating, summer recipes, season changes, the importance of markets, some philosophical stuff about why you should shop at a farmer's market. Never hurts to throw that in. And then a lot of times we'll pin a story or blurb around a certain category of ingredients. So we'll talk about all the fermented things we have at the market, or all the red things we have at the market, or baked goods, or this time of year, we're about ready to start talking about all the things you can get at the market that would go into a lunch that you pack for your kid going to school.
I think this is one of my kind of major holdups sometimes when I was writing. I mean, when we had like 5 markets a week and I was doing a lot of the newsletter writing, my brain would just like completely shut down about what am I writing about. I feel like I've written about everything at the market. So just kind of grouping things together in categories, looking at seasons, you can look at like it's National Smoothie Day or what. There's always a day where it's like some celebrating something food related. So all of those things. And then, like you said, like colors, or I mean, Annalise, who writes my newsletters now for the Mercado twice a week, is just incredible at tying all these random vendors with these smattering of goods and crops together into this beautiful thematic thing. I mean, she's talking about like riding your bike to the market, and then it's like this thing fits in your bike bag. And she just ties all the things together. And so she does a really great job of that. And I remember that can really hold you up. So I mean, subscribe to other farmers markets newsletters if you don't want to feel like you're just like globbing off your neighbor's farmers markets, maybe just someone in a different state. Because you can look at categories. I mean, subscribe to our newsletter for Little Italy Mercado. I feel like we do a great job writing about a lot of different categories of farmers and vendors at the market and tie them in really cohesively, and our readers appreciate it.
Nice. Wow. Business idea. Maybe that's the next thing Farmers Market Pros is going to offer. Standard blurbs that you can just drop in the names of your vendors, but the blurb's already written for you.
I love that. And I think it's a good, and I've talked about writing newsletters, I think at the conference several times during presentations and just listening to other folks. But that is really helpful. And that's like a good way to like step into this world of writing newsletters is just kind of use a little template form and kind of copy what people are doing. But I think our newsletters work really well because, of course, you and I wrote them for many, many years. And we were also on the ground schlepping barricades and such at the market. And Annalise is like she works open to close both markets. So she's an actual market staff person writing it. So she gets like a different viewpoint and like an intimate look at what the farmers and vendors are doing. She's talking to them about like making sure they have a fire extinguisher in their booth, but then also, oh, okay, you're making this new dish. Like, tell me about it. So she's in there really like boots on the ground. And so that, and also our social media manager is like that too. She's an actual market staff person. So I think that comes across a little bit differently. I can kind of tell when folks are using like a PR agency or marketing agency to do their newsletters, or it's like something kind of fluffy. People are not really there with the vendors, which is like both are fine because it's like you're just trying to get your message out there. But if someone on your staff can write the newsletters, I think that makes it just a little bit better.
I do too. Yeah, definitely gives you a better feel for what's happening at the market.
Yeah.
Finding photos, always fun, always a challenge. I will admit that sometimes I just have a great photo and that's what determines what I'm going to write about, because then I don't have to go looking for a photo after I write about something else. Big reminder to folks that are out there with their iPhones or their Androids, if they're you.
Excuse me. Give some respect to the Android users, okay, please.
I know you have good photo capabilities now, I will say.
My camera on my phone, my Android is exceptional. Thank you.
Segue. Anyway, when you're taking those pictures, I think we're all inclined to take vertical pictures because we post so much on Instagram. Please, for the love of everything holy, turn that phone sideways and get a horizontal, because that's what your newsletter writer is going to need.
Yes, exactly. And also, side note, that's what usually if a magazine's asking you for photos or anybody else, like they do need those horizontal angles, not just the vertical. So even I have to remind myself like, oh, this is a great picture. Okay, take it again and turn my phone. So you have both options.
And then, of course, there's the time-honored technique of taking that vertical photo and chopping off the top and the bottom to make it a horizontal. Sometimes that works.
Oh, I do lots of chopping and cropping, and it's fine.
Yep.
But it's better if you start with something that's in the format that you need.
For sure. I do love a recipe link, and I find that we get a lot of clicks on our recipe links. So including that, playing off of whatever's in season or whatever ingredient you're talking about and telling people what to do with it is super effective. Okay, so the easiest way to search this is go to your favorite search engine, put in ingredient recipe. So I was trying to figure out how to use tomatoes and peaches the other day. So I just said tomato peach recipe, and it popped up with a whole bunch of blogs that had different things using those two ingredients in the same recipe. And then I could just use that link. Now, you do have to vet it a little bit because you want to read the recipe you're about to link and make sure that they're not talking about, you can get these beautiful ingredients like Kroger this week. You know, you don't want somebody shoving people towards a big box grocery stores or towards commodity name brands when what you're trying to do is promote the salsa or the hummus or the yogurt that's sold at your market.
Exactly. Yeah, I think just, taking a quick look at maybe like the homepage of that recipe link too, and like what's the vibe there? Are they sponsored by somebody? Things like that. So it does take a little extra time, but I'll usually put ingredient recipe blog, which will take you to more of like a story. And those people are usually like shopping the farmers market. They'll even mention like, the farmers markets in general are overflowing with corn because it's summertime. Here's a corn recipe. So that's better than just like maybe you'll land on like a spice website, and so they're saying like use this like spice you can get at the grocery store, and then listing the ingredients. So yeah, it takes a little time to figure out how to find those recipes, but we get a lot of clicks on the recipes. And I think it's helpful because like we all know, shopping at a farmer's market is hard for some people because they can't they don't know, they're not familiar with every produce that's there, every crop that's on the tables. And so that's hard enough for them to kind of wrap their head around. And then they have to figure out what to do with it. And then they have to figure out, who we're going to use it for and who we're going to serve it to. So I think just like having a little link for them to get just some imagination, even if they don't make that exact recipe, they can kind of get their wheels turning. There are some markets that have their own recipes on their webpage. Maybe in their newsletter, they're linking back to they're typing up their own recipe because it's, folks on staff or the farmers are telling them how to cook it and they type it up. And that's obviously even better than linking to someone else's recipe. But again, very time consuming. We used to have a blog on our website that we would link to, and I would write a blog about things and put some quick recipes in there myself, but that took so much time. So linking to someone else's recipe can really be helpful, but just again, yeah, get your eyes on it first before you're sending your shoppers there.
I love getting recipes straight from the farmer or from a staff member. You do have to be careful whenever you're providing an actual recipe with amounts and times and that kind of thing, that recipe's been tested. I remember we had a staffer that I dearly loved years and years ago who wrote a recipe himself for roast chicken, mentioning that you should then put the chicken in the oven. We're talking about a whole raw chicken here. Put the chicken in the oven for 20 minutes. Thank goodness I proofed that newsletter before it went out. We would have killed so many people eating raw chicken.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
they probably wouldn't have died, but ugh.
Hopefully they would look at it and say, well, that was wrong.
Right?
Yeah. So, yeah, that is very helpful, actually, because usually these, especially if it's a recipe website that you're familiar with, we link to a lot of like the kitchen, Love and Lemon.
Kitchen.
Yeah. Things like that. Like, yeah, Smitten Kitchen. And their recipes are obviously very vetted, and I've used a lot of them before when I'm cooking. So making sure you're not sending folks to recipes that are like not the right timing, don't include all the ingredients, don't make any sense, don't taste good when they're done, things like that. So a little vetting goes a long way, and then you can kind of be repetitive with where you send people.
Yeah, you learn who you can trust. Like food demos, recipes should use market ingredients. So remember that. If it's got a lot of obscure ingredients that you can't get at your market, probably not the best one to link to. Another thing that I do a lot of times is just I'll include in my blurb just simple prep ingredients, not a recipe per se, but just, hey, you can saute this with a little bit of olive oil. I like to toss some sea salt on top, put it in the oven, serve it over rice, whatever.
Yeah.
You can tell people just briefly what to do. We remind people that you can cut a peach in half and drizzle it with a little bit of oil and throw it on a grill. That's all you have to say. You don't have to say how many minutes it's going to be on there or how many cups of peaches you need to feed such and such people. It's just a real simple way to remind people that these ingredients aren't that scary. There's simple ways to use it, and it's okay to realize that not everybody's used to that. Not everybody thinks that way, that, oh, I could do this with this ingredient.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if you're in a neighborhood where you're working in, partnership or just friendship with surrounding businesses, we don't have alcohol at our market. So a lot of times we say, oh, it's a hot summer day, pick up some Drewski's lemonade or fresh squeezed orange juice from Polito Farm and head down to Mona Lisa and pick up a bottle of bubbly champagne or soda water, like things that we're not selling at the market, and mix the two, put a slice of orange or slice of lemon in there, and you have a little mocktail or cocktail. So kind of bringing in the surrounding businesses, they love it. And we like link to their shop or their, storefront and kind of work it that way. If there's something that's in a recipe that's not offered at the market, that's a really great way to like link that up. I'm not like go to the grocery store and get rice or whatever. So it's a little bit more like community oriented that way.
Super smart.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of getting information out to your community about stuff that's not necessarily just market focused, I think you had a good point that we were talking about the other day, and Kara May at the Napa Farmers Market had done this. Sometimes you want to alert people to something going on in the world that's happening. It's wandering into your community. It could be an issue. You don't necessarily want to put it on social because if it's something you're not trying to attract, nothing like social to get the bad actors to follow you into your space. But sending it out in your newsletter, it's going to people that you have a connection with already and that want to hear from you. So What was Kara May's about? It was recent.
Yeah. So there's just, and I think it's happening in just public spaces in general, not just farmers markets. Folks that come to public spaces and they're filming and they're trying to like practice their First Amendment rights to film in public spaces. And so they kind of stick a camera in your face. This is to shoppers and vendors. And they just are like bothering people. And then what they want is for them the folks that are being filmed to have a strong reaction and like try to fight them or scream and yell at them. So then it's like content fodder for them and they post it on their YouTube channels and all this stuff. So it happens all the time. They go into like parking lots and do this to people like walking to their car. And it's just like these people need to whatever, get a job. But anyways, but it's like legal. Like it's not illegal to film people in public. That is the law. So they had visited Karame's market, and I didn't see her post on social media about it or very much about it, but she did send out an incredibly useful and helpful and calming email to her email newsletter subscriber list, talking about the markets and crops and season and all that stuff. And then also just including this happened at our market. This is the deal. This is who these people are. We just ask that you don't engage with them. We know it's difficult because they are invading your personal space and we want the farmers market to be a safe place. But we can't call the police on them. Like you're allowed to film in public. If you don't give them content, then they get bored, hopefully, and go away. So it was more just like a tone, like a little helpful tone, kind of calm them down, let them know that we're aware of this problem. This is how we're handling it. This is who they are. We know this is happening. Hopefully they won't come back. Love Karame. This is how to contact me if you have any further questions or information or anything like that. So I found that to be so helpful. And I took that information and then she sent it to like our statewide farmers market operator group. And it was really helpful because then I could send it to my group in San Diego, which everyone was really grateful for. We have seen them pop up at a couple places around San Diego, farmers market and other spaces, not a ton, but moseying around. And so it was nice to say, hey, like they might come to our market or your market. This is kind of some background information on them. Please don't engage. That's what they want. And then I was able to send it to my vendors and just say, this is who they are. This is the deal. Like, don't worry, we got your back. Like we want it to be a safe place and a safe space for you. And so let me know if you have any questions. And my vendors were really appreciative of that. So that was a more like a tighter kind of circle versus like posting on social media, because then you just get people, if you're a farmer's market in Arizona and this is happening, you post it on your social media, you'll get people in like North Dakota that can be like, they have a right to be there. It's just like, it's not relevant to like who's really coming to your market and what's really happening at your market. So social media is a great tool, but it's also kind of horrible in that way where you just kind of pull people into your space. And of course, also social media loves the fight. They love the content, all those things. So newsletter, there's no comment section in a newsletter. So that's helpful to get the information out that way. And I thought that was really well done. And I try to remember that, when I have my newsletter list. During COVID, I think we used it a lot too. We were sending stuff out via email newsletter to our shoppers about protocols and things that were happening at the market and what the city was telling us, that maybe we were posting a little bit on social media, just general information, but we posted a lot more like deep information week to week to our newsletter subscribers, which was really helpful to have.
Yeah, because it's helpful to them if you're giving them ins on how to use the market, how to get to the market. I think there was a big traffic breakdown not too long ago where the freeway was closed from a big area. That's the time to get something into your newsletter about alternative routes to the market. Or if there's another adjacent festival coming up, let people know, hey, it's going to be busy. This is the parking garage you might want to use. This other one's going to raise the price this week. Be aware. This is another place to park. So information like that, updates on local community events. We put those in our newsletter, whether it's Lemon Festival or the Juneteenth celebration that we're not organizing maybe, but is near the market and that we think people should know about. So it's really helpful to kind of wrap your community information and logistical information and any heads ups that people need into the newsletter.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I think I include a lot of like taste of Little Italy, like a taste events or art walk or things like that are happening in the neighborhood that maybe we post like in a story on social, but I don't want my whole page to turn into talking about other events. But I feel like people that are coming to the market do want to know about it and need that information. So the newsletter is a great place for that information to land.
Absolutely.
So positive and negative, or not negative, but challenges at the market. That information can all be in a newsletter.
What else do we want to put in there? Sponsor shout outs.
Sponsor shout outs. It's a great way. I mean, talk about click rate. I look at that because when we have sponsors come in, we charge a lot for them to come in because it's a very sacred space where we don't allow a lot of folks that aren't doing farming and food making to come into. But I do want them to get bang for their buck and I want them to reach our shoppers. So putting a link and some information about the sponsor in our newsletter is a great way to just reach extra people that maybe they see their booth at the market when they're there for the day, but they're on a time limit and they're shopping kind of quickly, so they don't have a chance to go talk to them. So that's just one more way for our sponsors to reach our shoppers.
Or they talk to them, they can't remember the name. We've had people go, oh, I'm so glad you put that in the newsletter. I love those guys. I couldn't remember which company it was. Be sure when you do that too, to include a link back to yourself, whoever's coordinating your sponsorships, because when other businesses see that pretty picture of that sponsor at the market or their logo and a little information about them, you want them to say, oh, and how would I set up there? Make it easy for them. Put that link in that says, oh, would you like to meet your community at the market? Email here to reserve your date to be the sponsor of the day.
So helpful.
Subject lines, I usually write those after I write the newsletter, although sometimes I'll start with a really fun pun or something in the subject line and then build my topics around there. I will admit it. We ran food puns for many, many, many years in every subject line.
We are very food punny. Not every newsletter is, but I like ours. Also, Annalise has jumped on that boat completely, and hers are hilarious. They're so funny, and it's just something for people to think about. I think when I say people reply back to my newsletter, a lot of the times it'll just be someone saying, "Oh, this was so funny." I can't even think of all the funny ones that she's done, but some of them are so hilarious, and they'll say, "Oh, that was so funny," or "that made me laugh," or this, and then they'll say, "Oh, I'm going to go buy that at the market." So I think it's helpful rather than just like farmer's market this Saturday.
Right.
I mean, that can also, getting the vital information out there first is great too, but have a little fun with it.
You do want the vital information in there, though. I mean, this one I think is super, super important. Do not forget the basics. I know it's tempting to say, well, this person's on my newsletter list. He knows when the market is. He knows what time it starts. You know what? He's got a lot of information in that brain. Get the important stuff right up to the front and remind people of it. So never forget to put sort of near the top and then again at the bottom, the day, the date, the time, the actual address of your market. You may think that everybody knows where Spencer Square is if they live anywhere near it. Not necessarily. To them, that's that plaza with the fountain. They may not know it's called that. So put the actual address in there and then a call to action. Feel free to say every time, come see us this week. Come join us. Come buy things. The imperative voice, the instructive voice is super important. I mean, sometimes people read interesting stories and look at those recipes, but they don't know that you want them to do something. You would think it might be obvious. It's really not. Tell them, come see us. Come join us. We want to see you.
Exactly. Yeah. I always say use action words. Come, get, buy, shop, see you here, all those things. So you got to tell them what to do. People want to be told what to do.
I want to be told what to do.
Same.
Sometimes.
Tell me what to do. Tell me where to go and what to buy, please.
I need some instruction. It's all just so much. And then the last thing, as Justine pointed out last week about press releases, she made a really good point that they only work if you do the release part. You can't just write the press release. You have to actually release it, get it out to people. Newsletters are like that. They only work if you get them to the people that need them. So there's lots of ways to keep building your list. Have a sign-up sheet at your welcome booth. Have some A-frames scattered around, especially if you've got a large market that covers a big area. Put that QR on some A-frames and put them in different areas of the market. Some people never make it to the welcome booth. Put that QR code on flyers, things that you can hand out, little signs. When you do other events, you are doing other events, right?
That's right. We're doing lots of other events. Yeah, my QR code for my newsletter sign up is on all my business cards and all my flyers for the market, because that's just where if people are thinking about your business and they're curious about your business, that's just a great way for them to just a first step.
Canva still has free QR codes, right? Especially,
yes.
At least if you're a nonprofit or for everybody.
I have a paid Canva account, so that's a good question if you can also do QR if you have just a free account in Canva. But yeah, if you have any level of paid account or have an account with Canva, you can create a QR code through that and it's free. So I would just use that and just put it, even if you're not using Canva, you can download the QR code and paste it in something else.
This is actually a good activity for volunteers. We did this years and years ago. We used to have volunteers in the shopping aisles chatting with people saying, were you looking for anything in particular? They give them directions and they'd say, would you like to sign up for the newsletter? Because you'll hear about specials coming up next week. And I make it really clear when I'm asking somebody to sign up for the newsletter that we're going to email them once a week and we're going to talk about what's coming to the farmers market so that they know what to expect. They know they're not going to get a daily newsletter. They're not going to get into a funnel that keeps talking to them about buying something. You're going to get one update a week. It's going to tell you maybe what's new in season. It might have a recipe. It's going to tell you what's on special.
Exactly. You can say explicitly, we're not going to sell this list. We're not going to share this list with anybody. You're only going to get my market's newsletter. That's it, period.
And since you really can't ethically share the list or give it to anybody else, another good thing to do is trade email links with your farmers and vendors, related community organizations, maybe local businesses like fitness studios, coffee shops. People have asked us before for us to give them our list, and we would never do that. However, we will sometimes trade and say, hey, I'll put a note in my newsletter with a link to your newsletter sign up if you'll do the same thing for us. And that's a great way to use it. So it's still coming from the newsletter that they signed up for, but you're just kind of pointing them towards aligned businesses, or in our case, sometimes we'll put in a list of, hey, I think you'd find it really entertaining to read Dale Ranch's newsletter. You might find it entertaining to read Not Your Nana's newsletter. And we point them towards places they can sign up to hear from their favorite vendors. When you're doing that, ask the vendors to do the same. Ask the vendors to put in their newsletter, hey, we're making this amazing sauce. You can find it at the Chula Vista Market. Here's the link to their newsletter so you can keep up on what's happening there.
Yep. So smart to not let your list go stale, and not, and take advantage of the opportunities you have to ask new people to sign up for your list. Because even if you have a large list, like my list is pretty large, I don't want to get like so comfortable with just all the people that are already signed up. There's so many new shoppers every single week. So try to capture that and get them on the list. You can do like a contest, like, hey, sign up today. And then you don't even have to ask them to like give you anything in person. You can just say, hey, I'm going to look at everyone that signed up today, because you have access to that list of new subscribers if you're using a platform. And you just randomly select one, send them an email because you have their email address now, and say, hey, we selected you. Thanks for signing up for our newsletter. Come by the info booth next week and get, a canvas bag or $10 gift cards. It can be really something simple, but people love a contest. They love to, they love a raffle. So that's a good way to get people to sign up for your email newsletter list that will really, benefit from being on that list. They're at the market shopping, so they might not have thought about being on the list, but just kind of give them a little extra push.
And I think right now, when a lot of people are trying to kind of cut back on their social media usage, or they've gone off social media altogether, this is a good way to say, somebody will come in and say, oh, I didn't know this was happening. And it's easy to say, well, we mentioned it 17 times on Instagram. Some of those folks aren't looking at Instagram. So what I usually say is, do you get our newsletter? Because that'll keep you up to date on all of this.
Yep, exactly. Yes. So that's a good way to just remind folks that the newsletter is where you're going to get information, and information direct from the market operator. Because if people are sharing your info on social, if it's not your page and they're just looking at other folks like influencers that are coming to your market or things like that, that's not directly from you. So newsletter is really a way to get direct connection to the person that's operating the market.
And what we keep saying in this particular season, we can't necessarily control the narrative, but we want to contribute to it. Probably email newsletters are the closest we get to controlling it.
There are so many ways to communicate nowadays, and so much email. But everyone enjoys hearing from someone they know. Make sure your email newsletter is in your shopper's mailbox every week. Make it useful, upbeat, and worth reading, and they'll look forward to that letter from home.
Thanks for listening to Tent Talk today. And big thanks to Taste the Local Difference for taking marketing off of busy farmers and market managers' plates so that they can concentrate on what they do best. And for supporting Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. To get more information on how to make your newsletter marketing easier and less stressful, click the Taste the Local Difference logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
Thanks for listening to Tent Talk today. Please leave us a review on your podcast app or wherever you listen to Tent Talk. Let us and others know how you're enjoying the podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode of Tent Talk. Connect with fellow Farmers Market folks in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community, and follow us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros. Find online education and other resources at farmersmarketpros.com. Tent Talk is brought to you by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Tent Talk is hosted by Kat Fields White and Bridget Myers and produced by Leandra Hayes, with original music by David Mead. Tune in for another great episode.